Finally, the main event. Let's get right into it. This is the trilogy here. We are so excited for this. The first two fights between these two guys were both really awesome fights. Some of my favorite fights that I've seen. And I'm excited to finally see the trilogy here. Who wins in the third one? DC won in the first bout. First round knockout over Stipe. Took his belt. And then when he goes to defend it in the rematch, was winning the fight for the most part, and then Stipe was able to make some adjustments later in the fight and was able to finish DC. It was a really interesting bout, and I'm excited to see how a third one plays out. So just looking at how they match up here, you can definitely tell that Stipe is the taller guy. He has a 6-inch height advantage and about a 7.5-inch reach advantage. It's not a huge deal for DC. He's always fought guys taller than him. He's fought at light heavyweight and heavyweight, and 5'11" is pretty short for that weight, or for both of those weight classes. So he's used to fighting guys taller than him, and he's fought Stipe twice already and did well both times, I would say. Even though he lost one, he was still doing well. He doesn't have a lot of issues with the range here. He doesn't have a lot of issues closing the distance, and he is the better wrestler here. He doesn't have a lot of issues getting that takedown. It's just, is he going to go for him? I know he's talked about in some interviews that he is going to shoot for the takedown, get this to the ground, and try to win the fight that way. So we'll see. I mean, he definitely has the ability to. He can take down anybody in the UFC, in my opinion, and he's probably one of the best wrestlers on the planet. I mean, he's able to do things that other guys are not able to do inside the cage, and it's really interesting. So one of the factors for that, though, is they are using the smaller 25-foot cage. That does help guys out with takedowns. There's not enough room to run away, per se, so you are always closer to the cage, closer to a takedown getting cut off by the cage. So that could help DC here, or it could count against him. He might just feel more confident with the wrestling early, and he might just keep shooting for takedowns to the point where he gets too tired and isn't able to secure it. But I don't know if he's going to fight like that. I think he's going to play it smart. He's going to mix in some decent striking combinations like we've seen before. But he is going to implement the wrestling. I just don't think it's going to be 100% pure wrestling. So a few things to look out for. Eye pokes in this fight. I know Stipe was trying to petition to get the bigger cage, but he's also come out and said that he's going to make it a point to tell the ref to watch for the eye pokes. And I mean, I don't blame him. This is the biggest fight of his career. This is a huge fight. It's one of the biggest fights ever. It's the trilogy of one of the, greater heavyweight rivalries that I've seen coming to the UFC. It's not the best, but it's definitely one of the most interesting rivalries. And these guys have a lot of back and forth, especially about the eye pokes. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. And hopefully we don't see any eye pokes, but you always could. We could see many eye pokes in this one. But like I mentioned earlier, DC won in the first round, knocked Stipe out, and was doing very well in the second fight until he lost. So I think he's got a great chance at winning again. He's one of the best heavyweights on the planet. And I think he has mentioned, is going to be one of his last fights. If he wins, I see him retiring and riding off into the sunset. But who knows? There's always those big money fights like a Brock Lesnar or somebody that could bring you in for another matchup. Nobody's retired if the pay's right. It happens. I mean, we're going to watch Mike Tyson fight again. You know what I mean? So let's jump right into this. Let's take a look at Stipe here, who I think might have the striking advantage here. He does have more, or higher KO percentage. He does have more fights where he finished by KO. Lands a little bit more, but I mean, not much. We've seen these guys fight each other. It's not too much of a difference in the striking when they're matched up against each other. Stipe's record here, he's 19-3, 3 losses on his career, and the only losses are to Daniel Cormier, the champion, the former champion, who took his belt there, Junior Dos Santos here, who's the former champion, that's what I meant to say. JDS, who is a former heavyweight champion. This is a really interesting 5-round fight. And he has another loss here to Stefan Struve. So Stipe is pretty proven. I mean, he's beat some of the top-level guys. He's beat Werdum, Alistair Overeem, JDS, Francis Ngannou, Andrei Arlovski. He's beat Daniel Cormier. I mean, pretty impressive record. We're really interested to see what type of adjustments he makes here. He did later in this fight here where he was able to win in the 4th round. A lot of people would say that he was losing the first 2, maybe 3 rounds, but he started mixing a lot of body shots in there, just really laying in a lot of fucking hands, a lot of punches into the body of DC, who was just letting it happen. He wasn't defending him as well as he could have been. He wasn't shooting for takedowns to try to stop him overall. It was just really letting it happen. So that was an interesting fight to see how it played out. It was interesting to see that it looked like DC was winning. He was ready to just stand and bang there and fight Stipe the whole time on the feet. I mean, I think he shot for takedowns early, but just at a certain point, you never saw it again. So it's interesting that the fight played out like that, and I don't think we're going to see it play out like that again, because Daniel Cormier is a smart guy. He knows that's probably his best shot at losing if he just stays on the feet. He can win on the feet. He's done it. But if he stays on the feet and plays, that's Stipe's game. I mean, Stipe's got good wrestling. He's got good boxing, but Stipe's not going to be shooting for takedowns on DC, I don't think. He's not going to shoot for a ton. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Let's take a look at DC's record here. I mean, DC's only ever been finished 2 times. Once by Stipe in the 4th round we were just talking about, and the other one was by John Jones. Here it is, John Jones, but that one was ruled a no contest. Got hit with that left kick that Jones tried to predict before the fight. Not tried to, did predict before the fight. Very interesting to see that it played out, but he has been knocked out twice, so it's worth noting. Even though it was overturned, it's worth noting because that's how the fight played out. DC, like I said, has mentioned he might be retiring soon. He's the older guy in the fight, might be at the end of his career, but he's got a lot of things to bounce back on. He's a wrestling coach. He's got his commentary. He's got a lot of things going for him, so it's not a huge deal. But I believe he's gonna take this very seriously. I believe he wants to retire a champion. So we're gonna see. Let's see. Only losses are to Stipe and John Jones. DC won the first fight by KO, was winning the second fight for the most part, and I really see in this fight, I'm just gonna jump right into my prediction here, because I really see for this fight we're gonna have it play out in a couple of ways. You know, we've already seen each guy get the finish on the feet. I think that's the most likely scenario, is we do see a finish on the feet. I know that Cormier wants to shoot for takedowns, wants to take it to the ground, but I don't know if he's going to quite be able to get a TKO on the ground against Stipe unless he really beats Stipe up on the feet. I don't think he's going to be able to get a submission on Stipe. However, it's possible. Daniel Cormier is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's the best wrestler in the UFC, but he also has great submissions, and those two play very well together. I think we are going to see some takedowns early from DC. He's probably going to secure a few of them in the first, second round, but I think as the fight progresses, as it goes on, I don't know if DC is going to be able to continue to keep getting the takedown over and over again. I think Stipe, who made adjustments late in the rematch, late in the fight, and was able to win, I think he's going to have a few things to look for. I think his coaches are going to have a few things to look for in this fight in case he might need to make any adjustments. But I think he's going to approach this fight differently than the last fight. I think he is going to include a lot of body shots, and I think we might see a bit of clinching from Stipe. It's really hard to see, or it's really hard to tell, but you know, he saw a lot of success with those body shots. It could be interesting to see if he starts with him and really starts to punish the body of DC early. I'm interested to see how it plays out. It's hard for me to pick either way. This is one of those fights where, you know, the odds on it, let's take a look. They're basically even. It looks like DC is the slight favorite. DC has talked about how he's going to wrestle here. But my bet, what I'm actually going to place a bet on, is I grab fight doesn't go to decision here. This is a pretty common bet for me. I like to find the fights that I believe. I'm not sure who's going to win, but I know somebody's going out. I think this is another case where somebody's going out cold, and it's probably going to happen early, in my opinion. I was unlucky. I think I grabbed this at like minus 300 is where I put some bets on it. Maybe even worse. I think I got it 350 and 300, but I saw right after, the day after, it jumped up to minus 210. So I don't know, I might put a little bit more on that, but I already have a decent amount of money riding on fight doesn't go to decision. They fought 2 times before already. It's going to be a 5-round fight. They haven't gone the distance with each other. They both have a finish over the other guy. And I mean, the rematch of the rematch here, the trilogy, it's going to be really interesting. I think both of these guys are going to go into this with a little bit more intensity, and I know they both have a loss to the other guy. They don't want to do it again. So really interesting to see. I might be leaning on Stipe to win this one. I'm not sure. I know he's got a really good skill set, but I'm not going to place a bet on any of the money lines here. We do have that fight does not go decision bet rolling, and that is the only thing that I'm confident playing on this. I might take another couple looks at it by the time the fight goes live, but that is what I have a bet placed on right now, and that is what we are looking to see in the main event. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content and for my live plays. Check out my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Cewpins. I do watch the fights and stream along and give out my bets, give a little commentary, preview the fights right before they happen. So if you're interested in seeing that stuff, check out the Twitch. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and we will have more predictions in the future. Peace out.